Hey, everybody. I am Kevin Iole on February 24th, yet again in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. All the big fights these days are going to Riyadh. On February 24th in Riyadh, this young man, Johnny Eblen, the Bellator middleweight champion, will be back in action. This time he is fighting a PFL champion, the PFL light heavyweight champion, Impa Kasanganay, on a pay-per-view card. Johnny, welcome. I appreciate your time. Is it any different having to go to the Middle East to fight? Does that change your preparations at all?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta go out a little bit earlier. But I mean, I think I went out pretty early for the fight in Ireland. So nothing too much different than traveling to Europe, just a different scene and a different environment and maybe a few hour time difference. But I plan on going out there I'm flying the 13th. I should get there the 14th. Just want to get a little acclimated to the time change. And even then, I feel like getting acclimated to the time change is only going to do so much because I think we're fighting, pretty much in the middle of the night anyway. So, yeah, I think the card starts at 11 p.m. In Riyadh time. So, I mean, I'll probably be fighting like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, maybe.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you gonna? Some people bring their own food, their own water. They bring everything over there. How are you gonna, handle that? Like, are you just gonna eat what's over there, or are you gonna bring your own food to be ready?
I've done that before, and it's kind of a pain in the ass sometimes. This last, like the time I was doing my food, I think like since since I fought Gegard, and maybe even the time before that, I had bought like a little burner, and I would buy my food at the local grocery store and then cook it in the room, and then pretty much did that. But this last time out, my burner actually like busted because of I think it's because of the converter. Like I was using like a converter because obviously they don't have our outlets in
Right.
um, Ireland, and it ended up burning out the stove. So I just ended up eating locally, like restaurants. Just I was really cautious of where I ate, and I stuck to my diet, and that seemed to go well. So I'm not really planning on bringing in a nutritionist or anything, or bringing my own food. I'll probably just eat whatever's around.
So, this is an interesting card, PFL versus Bellator. I don't know that there's the rivalry like exists between promotions, maybe like fight camps and everything. But do you feel that, like, I know you want to win for yourself because you're a competitor and you want to win, just because that's how you are. But do you feel like you're representing Bellator in any way?
Partially, yeah, a little bit, but it's not like this camaraderie I feel with Bellator. I mean, I feel like I mean, I've seen Ryan Bader a lot. Jason Jackson's a good dude. I've seen Pitbull a few times. AJ McKee. I mean, like when we were backstage yesterday, we were all chopping it up, having a good time with it. But it's because they split us up. I
Right.
know some guys at PFL. I know Maheta. I know the heavyweight champ. He trains at our gym, and I mean, we're all fighters at the end of the day, and we all get along.
Right.
There's no real bad blood unless like there's a specific situation between two people. But for me, I don't really feel like there's like a camaraderie or like a battle between Bellator and PFL. But I mean, I feel like they're trying to draw that out in us, and I feel like I am kind of interested in seeing like who wins more out of the PFL Bellator fights. When they match us up. I am a little bit interested into seeing, who wins more.
Interesting. Okay. Well, those are going to be some good fights. I want to ask you this. You're 14-0 as a pro, 3-0 as an amateur. So I don't even know when's the last time you lost an event. Did you lose at Checkers sometimes recently? Like, when's the last time you lost anything?
I lost a lot in wrestling, man. The last time I lost, I lost in the NCAA, my last NCAA. Actually got kicked out of the tournament.
Sound like Ben Askren, for
Was
God's sake.
losing. I was losing, and then I like double legged this dude across like 2 mats, and we like butted heads, and they kicked me out of the tournament because they thought I tried to like headbutt him on purpose, but it was come to figure out they actually told the ref that they shouldn't have thrown me out, and it was like this big old ordeal, and it kind of sucked. But that's technically the last time I lost was in collegiate wrestling.
Okay. Like, I guess one of the things I wanted to ask you about is if there's a criticism is used that your fight style has been boring, right? People have said you're not the most exciting fighter in the world. Now you're coming off a really big knockout of Fabian Edwards, and your 14 wins as a pro. You have 6 knockouts. Do you feel like the criticism was valid at any point, and do you feel like your hands are now catching up to your wrestling and the other aspect of your game?
I mean, I feel like my fights have been pretty exciting. I mean, I had knocked out Daniel Madrid. That was a while back, and then I pieced up the dude after him, and then I fought Colin Huckbody, and I TKO'd him. Then I fought John Salter. That was a bit of a tougher fight. It was a 3-round fight. Wasn't the most exciting fight. Gegard was an exciting fight. I dropped him. I put a clinic on him. I landed some really good shots in that fight.
And that's Gegard
Tokov
Mousasi.
was,
Johnny beat him for the middleweight title
yeah.
for people who don't know.
Tokov was a good back and forth in the beginning, and then I dropped him. And then after I dropped him, I just put a clinic on him as well, and I suplexed him in the 5th round. And you don't see too many people doing that. And then I went on to finish Fabian. So I think my fights are just going to get more and more exciting as I get more experienced.
I spoke to former UFC champion Sean Strickland last week, and he told me that he had trained with you, and he was, you know how Sean talks, right? So it's kind of crazy talk, but he said that the two of you tried to basically kill each other. What were those sessions like, and how did you grow from training with him?
They're great, man. I actually started training with Sean before I fought for the title. I went out to Extreme to get a different look with middleweights, and Sean was a guy that reached out to me, and he was actually a great look for Gegard. And yeah, dude, I really like Sean and his training style because he trains hard, and he gives you a real look. And when you spar him, he's like letting you know, hey, bro, we're gonna fucking fight each other, and it's like perfect. Like you're letting me know what we're signing up for instead of like there's some guys that will kind of go light with you, kind of go light, and then like all of a sudden they go boom, boom, boom. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like I thought we were light sparring, and then now all of a sudden we're fighting, and then we're back to light sparring. Like some guys do that, and I don't really like that. It's either we're like we're getting work, or we're fighting a little bit, And Sean lets you know up front, like, hey man, we're gonna spar, like we're gonna go hard. I'm like, cool, I'm down to go hard with you. So every time I train with that guy, I know we're gonna get some hard rounds, and I appreciate it, bro. Like it makes me a better fighter, and they're good rounds, and they're close, and we get better because of it. Not too many champions like Sean are how would I put it? Humble enough to put themselves in that position and train with a guy like me, and like go all 5 rounds with me. Like we literally just meet up at the PI and we fight 5 rounds.
Wow.
And he let me know the last time, like he's like, dude, I'm glad you're in town because I think you're the only guy in Vegas. You are the only guy in Vegas that can go all 5 with me right now. And I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, he said something like you were both trying to kill each other in the fight and everything, and I got a kick out of that. And I kind of figured, he might have been exaggerating a little bit, but how was it?
Nah, we're throwing hands, bro. But the difference between that and a fight would be like if I were to hurt him or he were to hurt me, we would slow down.
You kind of back off, yeah.
Like obviously we're not gonna go in for the kill. It's training, you know. In a fight, yeah, you hurt the guy, you go in for the kill. In a hard sparring session when we're fighting each other, like if you hurt the guy, you're like, you ask him, you good? And then if they say yeah, you keep going. If they're like no, then okay, you stop. So that's where you kind of draw the line between a hard sparring session and a fight, like an actual fight where it counts.
Sure. What do you make of Impa Kasanganay? I don't know how many of your fights, his fights you have seen. Can you break him down? And what do you think the biggest issue he presents for you is?
He's a good, durable boxer. Likes to move forward. Throws punches and bunches when he's confident. Pretty good, like get up defense from like get ups from bottom. Nothing too special on the ground I could see, and he's just a well-rounded fighter.
That wrestling game you have, do you feel like this fight may be, more on the ground than on the feet, given the fact that his strength is standing, and you have that versatility?
I think I'll just go wherever the fight takes me. I think I can outstrike him. I can out grapple him, out wrestle him. I'm better than him in every facet of the game, I think. It's just a matter of being smart and fight and having a high fight IQ when I go in there and taking the fight where I feel like I need to take the fight, depending on the circumstances and how the fight unfolds.
Sure. I want to ask you this: how do you think the Bellator's acquisition by the PFL is going to impact the fighters, and also what fans see? I mean, do you feel like this is going to be a good thing? A, for you guys as athletes, and then B, for the public, that wants to see quality fights, right? Do you feel like this is going to be something that'll be beneficial?
For the fighters, I could see it being a problem because now technically it's one less promotion you can fight for, because if you get signed by Bellator, you're fighting for PFL. So there's less competition. It's not all bad though, because the cards that they can put on are pretty impressive. Like this card that they're putting on February 24th is a fucking good card. Like, dude, Yoel Romero, Maheta, I want to watch that fight. You got Aaron Pico, you got AJ McKee fighting Cassius Clay. Like, that's going to be a hell of a fight. Vadim Nemkov's on the card. Got me, Ryan Bader. Dude, it's a hell of a card. And you don't make that card unless you acquire a big enough roster. And I think for fans, this is good because now we're going to be able to see some like super fights that we've been wanting to see. It's not to the level of like being able to see like guys like me fight guys in the UFC. That'd be a whole nother level. I mean, that would just generate big numbers, I feel like. But I mean, sadly, we're just not in that space when it comes to MMA. They are in that space when it comes to boxing, and that's something that I feel like MMA lacks, is the cross promotional stuff. But PFL going out on a limb and acquiring Bellator to make big fights like this, I think is good for fans. I think it can be good for fighters. We just got to see how it all unfolds. But I feel like it just less competition is generally not great for the athletes.
Well, let me throw this at you because I've thought about it a lot of different ways, and obviously, in the previous era when we had Bellator and PFL as separate entities, right? Neither one, could compare to UFC in terms of depth of talent, right? I mean, a very elite talent at the top. Yourself, Nemkov, you mentioned, AJ McKee, but did not have the depth in the roster.
Patchy Mix,
Right.
He's not on the card. I wish he was on the card. That's a hell of a fighter right there.
I agree with you. So, but my point being, now if you go together with PFL, and you could look at it the other way as well, but if you hook with PFL, you have an organization that maybe has more depth and maybe can compete, on a more even term. And so my question becomes this then:
but they also have too many fighters though, so they're letting some guys go, and that's not great. For the PFL fighters, if you're a high level guy, you're going to be okay. But it's right. Some of these guys that are either working their way up or maybe had a few bad fights and they're still, hanging on, and, they're getting cut. And it's just like, that's not good for fighters,
Yeah.
It's less competition. So they're, and yeah, they generated a bigger roster of higher level guys, but they're cutting some guys. So yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, go on with your question. I'm sorry.
Well, I guess the second part of the question was, look what UFC has done the last 3 fight cards, right? UFC 298 coming up in Anaheim, UFC 299 in Miami, and UFC 300. They have loaded these cards, right? And I wonder if that's not coincidental, given the fact that, they knew last year Bellator and PFL, had an acquisition and now is going to be a more serious competitor. And I wonder if, you think, and maybe you look at that and say, hey, the fact that they're loading up these cards with, great fighter after great fighter is as a response to what happened with Bellator and PFL.
I feel like that's just what they do in general. Like, regardless of I don't think it's really in a reactionary way. I think the UFC has developed a lot of stars in the past year, and a lot of new stars to create big fights. Like Sean Strickland was one. Now they have Dricus. They also got O'Malley, and Dustin Poirier. If you ever put him on a card, it's going to be huge. Also, you have Gaethje with the BMF title. It's just, there's so many moving parts that they created some new stars, some new like excitement, and they're just able to put on these big cards like this that are going to generate eyes. I don't think it's really reactionary to PFL buying Bellator, but I will say this card is like kind of like, holy shit, this is the best card that you could put together outside of the UFC, and it's pretty impressive. And I'm happy to be a part of it.
So people who are in the sport, I'll wrap with this. The people who are in the sport, around the sport, they understand how good you are and how good a lot of the fighters that we just talked about are. But maybe the public at large, it just turns on their television set and watches, they don't know, right? So is it frustrating, the fact that, you may be the best middleweight in the world and a lot of people don't know that? Is it frustrating not to get that acclaim and that credit, and also the paycheck that would come with being the best, right? And then secondarily, do you feel like there's anything that you can do to kind of try to push that narrative and get yourself that acclaim?
Sometimes it's frustrating, but I will say I'm getting paid pretty damn well in my current situation. I'm not upset, but I will say sometimes it enters my mind. I'm like, damn, maybe I am the best in the world, but I don't know, because I'm not fighting everybody, and technically, people would put the UFC middleweight title at the top pedestal. So it's just like, fuck, I really don't know, and it's frustrating because I do know some of the payouts that these high level UFC guys are making. And for some reason, I just don't get the credit that I deserve, in a sense. But, it is what it is. I'm making good money. I'm not super upset. I don't really think too much about it. It's just a topic that gets brought up, and sometimes, it goes through my mind, and I just take it day by day, and I just try to become the best fighter that I can possible. And, I'll just let the chips fall where they may.
Awesome
And
stuff.
then what was the second part of the question?
Well,
I'm
just
sorry.
what can you do to can you do
What could I
anything?
do? I guess that's all I can do, man. There's nothing. I'm contractually obliged to fight for the PFL. They bought my contract. There's nothing really I can do much, unless like a trade happened. Like I know.
Well, I was talking
What
about,
they
like,
traded Mighty.
maybe knockouts or crazy things like that, right? Or just,
Yeah, but like,
Conor
but that's not going
McGregor
to change
style
my.
promotion.
That's not going to change my. That's not going to change my contract.
Mm-hmm.
Becoming a bigger star isn't going to change my. It might, generate, more eyes, sure, but it's not going to change my contract. I still have, technically right now, I have 5 fights left on my Bellator contract that PFL bought. So nothing in that contract says, Johnny, if you become a big star, you can leave. Like, no, like, if anything, that's going to want them to keep me even longer, but then, then we can talk bigger numbers. But yeah, I think the best thing for me is just to get better and win more convincingly, and that's it. I signed up to fight, and I want to fight early and often. I just want to showcase my skills often, and just show that I'm one of the best, if not the best. And that's all I can really do, bro, is just go out and fight. And every time I have an outing, be impressive. And anytime I see a challenge pop up, run to that challenge and take it head on. That's all I can really do.
Doubt. Well, you will see this man fight on February 24th from Saudi Arabia against Impa Kasanganay on the Bellator versus PFL pay-per-view. Johnny Eblen, appreciate you, brother. Good luck to you, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, bro. See ya.
Take care.